Yeah, it's
Guzma.
time.
Hello YouTube, my name is Janitor. The Alola League is almost upon us and your boy Guzma will be making his debut and battling Ash very soon. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you happy that Guzma will be appearing in the anime? And who do you think will win this first battle, Ash or Guzma? Because my guess is that this will be the first but likely will not be the last battle. Also, how do you think Ash will do in the Alola League? I'll talk more about it in a bit, but my initial guess this early on is that he'll at least make it to the finals again, with his chance at winning potentially coming down to whether or not Kukui decides to enter. Anyway, I'll get to that later in the vid, but first I do want to talk about the episode from earlier this week, the new preview, as well as the new summaries that we have. First off, we did get to see Meltan in Pokemon Sun and Moon episode 111. Let me know what you thought about it. Overall, I thought it was a pretty fun and enjoyable episode. I'm curious how they'll play more of a role in the later episodes and how Ash and his friends will interact with them. We do get to see Lana having some fun in the next preview, but especially now that one of them is tagging along with Ash, I am interested to see how this all turns out. But we do get to see them again next week in episode 112. Just to read the summary, airing on March 10th, a new species has been discovered. I got a Meltan, quote, "The mysterious creature was actually an entirely new species of Pokemon. Its name is Meltan, but something bad happens to it. Something precious ends up getting stolen. Rowlet joins the search for it, but," and then it just ends there, end quote. So this seems to be what we got in the preview, where it's kind of helping, I think it's like the nut or bolt on its head that's kind of floating there. That's what Rowlet is helping the Meltan with. So we'll get more of that later on with other previews. But now on to episode 113, airing on March 17th, a new show, The Tiny Melody of Magikarp. Ash and the others have come to a TV station in order to cheer for Sophocles, who's going to be on a quiz show. There they encounter a genius child actor, Magikarp, named Koi-chan, but Ash notices that there's something a bit off about it, end quote. So let me know your thoughts about it in the comments. This looks like it's going to be a pretty fun episode. The fact that Ash and his friends will be interacting with a game show, or I guess just kind of a quiz show and such. On a somewhat related note, I do wish the best for Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, for those of you who had heard the news. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting episode. Now on to episode 114, Beauty and the Meowth, airing on March 24th, quote, "Trainers with Z crystals are being attacked by an ultra beast called Furimosa. Meowth is an eyewitness to the scene and ends up falling in love with Furimosa," end quote. So I'm actually really curious about this, because Meowth there's almost been an ongoing gag where it kind of falls in love with various Pokemon in the past. We've seen it throughout various series, so I'm wondering how it's going to take place here in Sun and Moon. But the fact that we do get to see Furimosa is great. Ash and the others will presumably be serving as the Ultra Guardians, and we're likely going to get to see Luzamine again here, which is great. So now on to the major episode, Pokemon Sun and Moon episode 115, Guzma, Emperor of Destruction, airing on March 31st, quote, "It is said that Professor Kukui and Guzma are fated to get involved with one another, and thus, on the day that Professor Kukui announces the Alola Pokemon League, Guzma watches it live on TV, then comes marching into the Pokemon School," end quote. So yeah, now going back to Guzma, overall I'm just really happy that he's making his debut. It's been 2 years now as the Sun and Moon started, but we'll finally get to see him in the anime. I think that's awesome. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you happy that Guzma will be making his debut? And what do you think now that we're getting really close to the Alola League? How do you think Ash will do against who, and who do you think will win in that regard? But yeah, now onto this specifically. Based on the summary, there seems to be some reminiscence to the games, as I remember him saying how, correct me if I'm wrong, how he was somewhat of a reject, who could never get into to be one of the trial captains. So with that in mind, I'm wondering what he'll think of Ash and the others, and whether or not he may decide to enter the league or simply try to ruin it to mess with Kukui. And even then, I don't even know if Kukui would like Guzma, because probably knowing about him, maybe he might know that he want to mess with it. So in the games, he does say, I believe, how there was no need for a league, because he saw himself as one of, if not the strongest on the island. As for the anime, like I mentioned, I think Ash and Guzma will be battling more than once, and Guzma may beat Ash on the first battle. We do get to see, from the looks of it, Golisopod will be appearing in the episode, which is awesome. But I do think even in that case that Ash would eventually defeat him. Kukui announcing the league in the same episode is pretty significant, so whether or not Guzma decides to enter is something that we'll just have to wait and see. As for Ash, I was posting comments about this yesterday. I think my prediction for the league this early on, because it's a long time before we get to it, but this early on, if Kukui does enter, I think that the scenario could be that Ash will beat Gladion in the semifinals and battle Kukui in the finals. So at that point, I do think that Ash could have a chance of winning, because at that point he likely has some feel for Kukui's Pokemon. He knows a bit of how he battles, especially if he enters as the Royal Mask. Now, if Kukui doesn't enter, I think Ash might have a better chance of winning, but even then, history isn't exactly on our side. I still remember the Kalos League. But I will say though, as I mentioned when talking about it earlier, that there doesn't appear to be many currently known characters that could potentially beat Ash. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas on any, other than Kukui, any characters that are currently known. But I do think that if he faces someone like Kiawe, Gladion, or even Hao, he would beat them. I don't think that Guzma would enter, but even then, I'd expect by the time of the league, I do expect that Ash would beat him as well. And so at that point, I think he'd have a better chance of winning. But if he were to lose, it would have to be against some character that we just haven't seen yet. Potentially, perhaps someone like Tobias, if you remember from Diamond and Pearl, was super strong, had 2 legendaries, if I remember correctly. He had Latios and what was the other one? Darkrai. It was Latios and Darkrai. Just out of nowhere, he came with 2 legendary Pokemon. So yeah, but even then, if Sun and Moon did something like that, they would probably be really mad about that too. But yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk more about that later this year, to talk more about the league. This is just kind of the start now that we know that it's being announced, because we did get somewhat hints of it. That Kukui was working on it early on, but now that it's pretty much being announced in episode 115, I'm really interested to see how all this turns out. My guess is it's either going to be against Kukui or just some character that we just haven't seen yet. But let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have any ideas on how the league will turn out, how far Ash will go, and maybe against who will he beat, or will he win or lose. Nonetheless, I am excited because the league is always fun to talk about how it'll play out. In my heart of hearts, I do think that Ash has a chance of winning, but we'll have more time to talk more about it in another video in terms of specific rivals, who might he potentially be battling. Like I mentioned, I think right now it's still really early on. But my guess is he'll battle Gladion in the semifinals. He'll beat Gladion, and then in the finals, it'll either be Kukui or someone else. And at that point, we'll have to wait to see whether Kukui enters the league in the first place, because I think that will really determine whether or not Ash would win. For now, I'm curious what you all think about this. How do you think Ash will do in the league? How far will he get? Against who? Do you think he'll win? But yeah, there's a lot to talk about, especially now that Guzma will be making his debut in the anime. I'm overall just really excited. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments. Thanks for watching. Peace. Stay hyped. As always, best wishes.